Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is Kino with STEMwithKino.com. And today I would like to talk about supercharging and turbocharging engines, aircraft engines, more specifically. Um, it's a necessary thing in some parts of the world. And I'm going to show you why. Um, let's take, for instance, all right, this is the Cessna 172 RG manual. And if we read, we'll come down to service ceiling, and this will get us up to a service ceiling of about 16,800 feet. If we look at the Cessna 152, and just trust me, this is from the 152 because I can't shift this around too much, but the service ceiling, and if I read outside of the boundaries here, is 14,700 feet. Now, why is this important? This is important because let's go to our buddies over at skyvector.com. Let's see here. Let's say we're in Salt Lake City and we want to fly eastbound. Well, some areas and if we're going to fly over mountainous terrain, I would like to be at least 2,000 feet above that. All right, so even if we were flying above, and I look at the maximum elevation figures. Now, can you cut through some areas and get lower? Yeah, you probably could. But me, for safety reasons, if I'm doing a trip and I see that the maximum elevation figure is 11,800, I want to be at 14,000. All right, and if we're going to be at 14,000, then we're going to need some type of supplemental oxygen because the atmospheric pressure at that altitude is not too great at 13,000 feet, and plus there are FAA requirements if we're going to be at 13,000 feet, or if we're going to be, over, 12,500. There's a couple different regulations. All right, but we'll focus on that, the specific regulations in a different video. The reason that I'm talking about this is because in this case, I really would not want to be flying in anything that was not supercharged, turbocharged, or a turbine engine. All right, so that's my point. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually do a test here, and I love. All right, let me see if I can. All right, there we go. I got rid of that. Okay. So we're at Salt Lake City, Utah right now, and you can actually see the mountain range out there. Okay. Now we're at about 4,300 feet above sea level already. So we're almost a mile above sea level. A mile is 5,280 feet. And so we're already at high altitude. The closer we get to 10,000, the more, me personally, I would like to have supplemental oxygen. And like I said, I'd like to be in a turbocharged or supercharged airplane. Now, this particular aircraft, the Cessna 172, is not a supercharged or turbocharged aircraft. All right, let's get her started first of all, and let's get our head tracking back on, and let's reset. Okay, so our head tracking is on. I can look left and I can look right around the aircraft. Okay, so basically what we're going to do is we're currently at, if we look at our altimeter, 4,000, almost 300 feet. All right, so what's going to happen as we get higher and higher and higher, the performance of the aircraft is going to degrade. So let's just say, for instance, we said, okay, well, we want to fly eastbound, and we're going to go over those mountains. Okay, now I'm not sure what this flicker is all about, but I'm See if I can't get it to stabilize. Okay, so we're airborne. And we'll just say that Salt Lake City, the tower handed us off to Salt Lake City departure, and they told us it's okay to execute this right turn because that runway was closed, and we're going to try to jump these mountains. Now, we are currently at about a little bit under 500 feet per minute in our climb. And we'll go ahead and pitch for best rated climb. And again, keep in mind, if it's even hotter, if it's hotter, the air molecules are going to spread apart. And we will not get the thrust that we need from the propeller, because the hotter it gets, the higher our pressure altitude, or I'm sorry, the higher the density altitude, and the airplane is going to actually fly like it's higher than it really is. So we would have all kinds of performance factors. Now, I think, and I won't quote it because I'm not looking at the manual right now. I'll get back to the manual in a moment. But, you know, that maximum elevation figure that I saw was like 10,800. And that was like the maximum elevation of anything inside that grid. But let's just see if the simulator can get over it. Our speed has actually decreased a little bit, and so I have to actually pitch lower, reducing my feet per minute in the climb. So, and I was trying to pitch for V wide, best rate, but it looks like just because of this altitude, I'm not really getting a lot of great aircraft performance out of this aircraft. And really, we're pretty much over a mountainous area, or almost a mountainous area. And me personally, for safety reasons, I would like to be 2,000 feet higher. But she's probably not going to do it. So we make the decision to say, you know what? And I wouldn't get this close to the mountains, but this is a simulation. So, you know, we can kind of stretch and just see if we can get some climb performance. It just may take us a little bit longer to get as high, but we're losing airspeed. We're slower than 60 knots of indicated airspeed. And you know what? Maybe you might be able to find a hole, but I would not play with it. Aircraft performance is a serious thing, and this is why we need to know our numbers. But yeah, there's no way in the world I would be playing around with an airplane like this with this degraded performance. Now, at this point, we're a little bit above 5,500. And if you look, the aircraft is just, it's hanging on. It's climbing very, very slow. Right. Now, I mean, over time, we could probably get above these mountains, but as soon as we hit 10,000 feet, especially at night, I would rather have supplemental oxygen at night. In daytime, you know, I would just like to be higher in a higher performance aircraft. And this is the reason why we have supercharged, turbocharged, and turbine-powered aircraft, because the normally aspirated reciprocating engines just cannot do it, and we don't have the supplemental oxygen. Now, she's getting her climb on a little bit, but still, this is not the place to be playing, because you got to think always, what if I lost my engine? Now what am I going to do? Okay, well, there's nothing down there but jagged, rugged terrain. Well, there's a couple roads and highways or something like that, but you know, you just don't want to do that. And it looks like we might be able to get above this. But still, I don't want to just get above the mountains. I don't want to scrape the mountains. You want to be at an altitude such that if you lost your engine, you could make it to another airport, or you could land on something flat. And there's really not a whole lot of flat options out there. So this is, you know, the reason for my spiel here. Very, very poor performance. And you can see that the altimeter, if we zoom in on the altimeter, that thing it's climbing like a stuck pig, man. It is climbing so slow. We look at the vertical speed indicator, and I mean, we're getting a little bit over 200 feet, actually 203 feet per minute climb. This is not good climb performance from an aircraft. But this is because this is not the realm. You know, 10,000. I mean, yeah, the plane could do it. If I was, I don't know, over Kansas or something like that, then yeah, maybe. But not in mountainous terrain. In mountainous terrain, you do not want to do this. And, you know, so this is just for training purposes only, just to show you how poor an aircraft will climb if it's outside of its element. So this is going to segue into turbocharging and supercharging, because we do not want to be climbing like that. And even if we do have a supercharged or turbocharged aircraft, we're still going to need supplemental oxygen, and preferably above 10,000 feet, which is, judging by this, we're just climbing through 6,500. Okay, now this is just a simulation, but there are airports at higher altitudes. Okay, if we were in Denver, Colorado, we'd be at least 5,000 feet. So you take that and you add a hot day to it, and you know, I would just feel more comfortable. And you know, there are guys that do it, but they're not like heading towards mountainous regions and stuff like that. But when you're messing around in mountainous regions, you want to have the power available. So we're going to talk about supercharged and turbocharged engines. Okay, guys, so first off, we need to look at, you know, what happened and why we got so much or so little climb performance out of the Cessna 152 in that scenario that I just showed you. All right, when you operate reciprocating engines at high altitudes, the efficiency of the engine diminishes as a result of lower air density. So as we got higher, the air became less dense. And even though the volume of airflow into the engine remained the same, we just got poor performance. And this is a characteristic of what we call a normally aspirated engine, when the fuel air mixture is not compressed. All right, so if the air intake could be compressed, more fuel could be added into the mixture and producing an increase in the engine's output. So, you know, at sea level, it's really not a problem. At sea level, the performance can be obtained flying at, you know, slightly higher altitudes. Even if, we're at low altitudes, we'd be good to go. But when we get in the higher altitudes, we need a supercharged or turbocharged engine. So this is a turbocharger diagram, but you could have a supercharged or turbocharged engine. If we had a supercharger, this supercharger compresses the incoming air using a pump driven by the engine. And although effective, some engine power must be used to drive the supercharger. So you do lose slightly a little bit of power, but you still get better performance than a normally aspirated engine. All right. On the other hand, in this case, the turbocharger, it's more effective because it pressurizes the air using a mechanism driven by the engine exhaust gases, which we'll demonstrate in a minute here, which could otherwise be vented overboard. All right. So this is why we get higher performance. And so in this, we're going to talk about some components of the turbocharger. Here you see the turbine. All right. So you can see the air intake coming in, and you have a compressor, so the air is compressed at this point. Before it actually goes into the actual cylinders. So in this case, we can introduce more fuel. Then we have the exhaust. Now we have a wastegate, and we have a turbine. So this actually gives us added compression, or not added, but it's still going to assist with that compression process. So we're taking the air, we're using it, so it's getting compressed here, and we have the throttle body, and basically we're kind of getting it. It's almost like it's being reused if you just follow the cooler air coming in, and then when it goes through the intake compression power exhaust, and then it's pushed out. Okay, we can trap some of this to force it back through the turbine to, to help us out again with the turbine or the compression. The turbine is connected to the compressor, and then eventually it's all dumped out a wastegate. All right. So this would be the turbocharger part of it, right? The turbocharger incorporates a turbine, which is driven by engine or exhaust gases, and a compressor that pressurizes the incoming air. All right. We have the throttle body up top. All right. This regulates airflow to the engine. So this throttle body regulates the air coming into the engine. All right. We have our intake manifold here. All right. The intake manifold, it distributes the pressurized air from the turbocharger, and then this air is supplied to the cylinders. All right. The next part is the exhaust manifold. So this is the exhaust manifold. After it goes out of the ejection ports, you got two avenues. Okay, we could close this wastegate. The wastegate can be closed, and then we can send it back through the turbine. Or it can be opened up if we don't need as much. All right. So the exhaust manifold gas is ducted through the exhaust manifold, and is used to run the turbine, which drives the compressor. So you can see these two guys, they just work hand in hand, pressurizing that air, increasing the aircraft performance. All right. The intake is just where the air initially comes in, kind of like your carburetor air filter and that normally aspirated engine situation. And then the wastegate, this guy here, the wastegate controls the amount of exhaust passing through the turbine. The wastegate portion is controlled by the engine oil pressure. So these things, they kind of ebb and flow to get the best performance. Okay, so this is why we get better performance, and you'll see when we go into the next video, or next in a moment. See you guys on the next climb out of Salt City in a turbocharged aircraft. So now let's take a turbocharged or supercharged aircraft and put them in the same and put ourselves in the same flight conditions. Now again, you still need supplemental oxygen. Rotation. Positive rate. Say hi to the tower. And those are our mountains over there. Now, you'll notice we have a superior climb rate. And I would stay on this course for a while. All right, now we're already approaching 5,500. We can see the tops a lot better. And so you see that we're just getting a lot better climb performance. We start a gentle turn into that direction. And you notice that the aircraft is not struggling. You have strong vertical speed. And this aircraft just performs a whole lot better. So this is the advantage of turbo or supercharged engines. And we would have to lean the mixture because we are above 3,000 feet. And you notice we're at a higher altitude and the mixture is pulled back. So we can minimize the amount of fuel we're introducing to the engine. And we have much better climb performance. We're approaching 8,000 feet. We're at 7,500 feet now. Now, I would have waited a little bit longer, but just for simulation and time purposes to shorten this video, you can see we're already approaching the tops of the mountains. So, you know, this is just something, this is an operational consideration when you're operating in areas high above, you know, very, very high above sea level. Some of the considerations you have to take into account. You never, ever, ever want to be in a mountainous area in a low performance aircraft. Now, there are factors that change this, like if it was a super, super cold day, then, you know, the air molecules would be a lot more compact, closer together, and we would be getting more output from our engine. But we're approaching 9,000 feet already. In the previous video, you saw how the Cessna 152, it was just struggling. But the Cessna 152 was not a high-performance aircraft. If an aircraft is turbocharged, supercharged, you can almost bet it is a high-performance aircraft. Okay, so we're pretty much above the tops at this point, and we still have really, really good climb performance. We're at 9,000 feet. And at night, I would already be, at this point at night, I would be on some type of supplemental oxygen system. Now, again, I'd like to be 2,000 feet higher, but, you know, for the sake of the video, I just turned so you guys can see the climb performance. So this is the advantage of turbocharged and supercharged engines. So guys, be safe out there in your flight training, and we'll see you next video. Let's do a flyby. Look at her, she's still climbing.